The Celestial Academy floated in space between 12 different star systems. It was a school where the rich and powerful families from across the galaxy sent their children. The building was huge, made of crystal and metal that shined in the light of nearby stars. Inside its halls, students from hundreds of different alien worlds learned together. Katie Morrison was 15 years old and human. She was one of only 3 humans in the entire school. Her kind had just joined the Galactic Council 5 years ago. Most alien species still thought of humans as newcomers who didn't belong among the stars. Katie sat in her quantum mechanics class, trying to pay attention to the professor. Around her, alien students towered over her small frame. Some had scales, some had fur, and others seemed to be made of pure energy. She had learned to ignore the stares and whispers. Being different was hard, but she wanted to learn. She wanted to prove that humans belonged here. Behind her sat Zrexthor. He was a Kraxamite prince, and his people were known across the galaxy as fierce warriors. Zrexthor stood 8 feet tall with black armor-like skin that covered his body. He had 4 arms, each ending in sharp claws that could cut through metal. His species had conquered 17 star systems before joining the council. Zrexthor didn't like humans. He thought they were weak and primitive. Today he had decided to make that opinion very clear. "Look at the human," Zrexthor said loudly in Galactic Common, the language everyone used to communicate. "She looks so lost. Maybe someone should send her back to her dirt planet where she belongs." Katie felt her hands shake slightly, but she kept writing notes on her datapad. She had dealt with mean kids before back on Earth. She could handle this. She just needed to ignore him and focus on her studies. The class ended and Katie gathered her things quickly. She wanted to get to her next class without any trouble, but as she stepped into the corridor, Zrexthor blocked her path. 3 of his friends stood with him, forming a half-circle around her. The hallway had been full of students just seconds ago. Now it was empty. Everyone had learned not to get involved when Kraxamites were causing trouble. "I'm talking to you, human," Zrexthor growled. He used one of his lower arms to push Katie hard against the wall. The air rushed out of her lungs and pain shot through her back. "Please," Katie said quietly. "I don't want any problems." "Your species shouldn't be here," Zrexthor continued. His voice was full of hate. "You have no claws, no armor, no strength. You're weak. My people were ruling the stars when yours were still living in caves." One of his friends made a clicking sound that might have been laughter. "Maybe we should show the council how weak humans really are." "Then they'll kick your kind out of the academy." Zrexthor's main right hand shot out and grabbed Katie by her uniform collar. He lifted her off the ground easily. Her feet kicked uselessly in the air as she struggled to breathe. "Let me go," Katie gasped. "Make me, primitive," Zrexthor said with a cruel smile. Katie's hand moved to her wrist. Every student at the academy wore an emergency device. It could call for help if something bad happened. Katie's fingers found the button, but not the general emergency one. She pressed the personal contact button, the one labeled Dad. Zrexthor saw what she was doing and laughed harder. "Calling for help from who? Your pathetic species has no warriors, no champions. The council only let you join because they felt sorry for you." The device made a soft beeping sound. The connection was complete. Katie looked straight into Zrexthor's dark eyes and whispered 3 words that would change everything. "Dad, I'm scared." Zrexthor threw Katie across the corridor. She hit the opposite wall hard and crumpled to the floor. Her shoulder burned with pain and she tasted blood in her mouth. She tried to stand up, but her legs wouldn't work properly. "Pathetic," Zrexthor said, walking toward her again. "This is what humans are, weak, helpless. You don't belong among the stars." Katie's wrist device beeped again. A message appeared on the small screen. 16 minutes away, sweetheart. Stay strong." Zrexthor saw the message and his mandibles clicked with amusement. 16 minutes? That's plenty of time to teach you a lesson you'll never forget. He raised his primary arm, claws extended. Katie tried to crawl away, but there was nowhere to go. The wall was behind her, and Zrexthor blocked the only escape route. Then a new voice cut through the tension. "Stop this immediately." Chancellor Vorn appeared in the corridor. He was the headmaster of the academy, a being made of pure energy who could teleport anywhere in the school. His species, the Ythrians, had founded the academy 3,000 years ago. "Chancellor," Zrexthor said, not moving away from Katie. "I was just showing this human the natural order of things. The strong are meant to be on top. The weak are meant to know their place. You attacked a student, Chancellor Vorn said. His energy form pulsed with anger. This is against every rule we have. You could be expelled for this, could I? Zrexthor's confidence didn't fade. My father is the Kraximite Emperor. He commands fleets that could destroy planets. This human species barely has any ships. Who do you think matters more to the Council? Chancellor Vorn was silent for a moment. Katie saw the truth in that silence. The Academy was supposed to treat all students equally, but politics always got in the way. Powerful species got away with things that weaker species never could. Katie Morrison, the Chancellor finally said, "Go to the medical bay. Get your injuries treated. Zrexthor, you will receive a formal warning in your file." A warning? Katie couldn't believe what she was hearing. She wiped blood from her lip with a shaking hand. He attacked me. He could have killed me. And he just gets a warning? The situation is complicated, Chancellor Vorn said. He wouldn't look at her. Interspecies relations are delicate. We must consider the diplomatic consequences of any punishment. Zrexthor clicked his mandibles in satisfaction. You see, human? This is how the real galaxy works. The strong make the rules. The weak follow them or suffer. Katie's device beeped again. 10 minutes away. Chancellor Vorn noticed the message. Is someone coming to get you, Katie? My father, Katie said simply. I see. Well, I'll make sure we document everything properly. When he arrives, we'll give him a full report of what happened. You still don't understand, Katie said. A strange calm was settling over her now. The fear was fading, replaced by something else, knowledge, certainty. What's there to understand? Zrexthor laughed. Your father will come, see how things work here, and take you back to whatever backward planet you came from. Maybe he'll learn to teach you better about knowing your place. The Academy's alarm system suddenly screamed to life. Red lights flashed throughout the corridor. Every student's data pad lit up with emergency warnings. The floor shook slightly and several lights flickered and went dark. Chancellor Vorn's energy form spiked with alarm. What is that reading? The sensors are detecting something moving through jump space at impossible speeds. Nothing should be able to travel that fast. Katie smiled despite the pain in her shoulder and the blood on her face. That's my dad. Impossible, Chancellor Vorn said, checking his readings again. The signature, it's showing something that can't be real. It must be a malfunction. What signature? Zrexthor demanded. His confidence was starting to crack. What's coming? Chancellor Vorn's voice shook. According to the sensors, we have a Protocol 7 situation. There's a dragon heading straight for this station. The corridor went completely silent. Every species in the galaxy knew about dragons. They were legends. Stories told to scare children. Tales of creatures so powerful they could end wars with their presence alone. But they weren't supposed to be real. They were myths from 1,000 different cultures across the stars. And they definitely weren't supposed to be human. Zrexthor's claws retracted slightly. Dragons are extinct. They never really existed. This is just a sensor error. Katie's device beeped one last time. The message was simple. Arriving now. Love you, sweetheart. The entire Academy station shuddered. Windows throughout the corridor suddenly went dark as safety shields activated. But not before everyone saw something impossible outside. A dragon circled the station. It was massive, bigger than most ships Katie had ever seen. Its scales glowed with light that seemed to come from the stars themselves. Wings that seemed too large to be real spread out across space. And its eyes burned with an ancient power that made everyone who saw them want to run and hide. The dragon was looking directly at the corridor. Looking directly at Katie. Looking directly at the ones who had hurt her. Zrexthor fell to his knees. His forearms shook. For the first time in his life, the proud Kraximite prince knew real fear. 3,000 light-years away from the Academy, Captain Jake Morrison sat in a meeting room with the Thoraxian Commerce Guild. They were discussing trade routes and supply contracts. The meeting was important, involving billions of credits and resources for dozens of planets. Jake was a veteran captain and diplomat. He had spent 20 years in space, representing humanity in negotiations with alien species. He was good at his job. People trusted him. They thought he was just another human trying to make his way in the galaxy. They were wrong about that. Jake's wrist device suddenly vibrated. It was his daughter's emergency beacon. He looked down at the screen and saw the personal distress call. Then he heard Katie's voice, small and scared, saying those 3 words. Dad, I'm scared. Something changed in Jake's eyes. The Thraxian ambassador, who had been talking about shipping schedules, stopped mid-sentence. Every being in the room suddenly felt like the temperature had dropped. They all looked at the human, and some primitive part of their brains screamed danger. "Gentlemen," Jake said. His voice was calm, but there was something sharp underneath it. Something that cut like a knife. "We need to stop this meeting. My daughter needs me." The older Thraxian ambassador nodded quickly. He had been around during the Vrillian War. He had seen what happened when someone threatened a human's family. "Of course, Captain Morrison, go, we understand." But the younger Thraxian at the table didn't understand. He was new to galactic politics. He hadn't learned the important lessons yet. "Captain, surely your child's small problems can wait. We're discussing contracts that affect billions of people. One child's troubles aren't more important than that." Jake stopped walking toward the door. He turned slowly and looked at the young Thraxian. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, but everyone in the room felt their survival instincts wake up and start screaming. "Let me explain something about humans," Jake said. "We're not the strongest species in the galaxy. We're not the fastest. We don't have the best technology. But we have something that makes us very dangerous." He took a step forward. Several beings in the room took a step back. "Humans bond with each other. We form connections that are stronger than logic. Stronger than self-preservation. Stronger than anything else. And when someone threatens our family, when someone hurts our children, we don't stop to think about consequences. We don't calculate odds. We don't worry about diplomacy." Jake's eyes seemed to glow slightly. "We become something else entirely." The older Thraxian ambassador stood up fast. "Captain Morrison, take one of our fastest ships. We'll handle any diplomatic problems. Go to your daughter." "Go now." Jake nodded and left the room. Within minutes, he was aboard his personal ship, the Wanderer. His fingers flew across the navigation controls, entering coordinates for the Academy. The jump drive began to charge, but something else was happening too. Jake's body started to change. His human form began to shimmer and shift. It had been almost 10 years since he had let this happen. 10 years since he had released the part of himself that he kept locked away. His skin rippled as scales began to form. His body grew larger, expanding beyond the limits of his human shape. The Wanderer's cabin couldn't contain him anymore. Jake had to transfer his consciousness into the ship's computer system, because Jake Morrison wasn't just a human captain. He was something that the galaxy thought was only a myth. He was a dragon. Not like the dragons from Earth's old fairy tales, though those stories had been based on truth. Jake was a member of humanity's most carefully guarded secret. His bloodline went back thousands of years to before humans had ever left Earth, before they had cities, before they had written language. When humanity joined the Galactic Council, they had made a deal. Dragons would stay hidden. Their existence would be denied. The galaxy would never know that humans possessed this kind of power. But the deal had one exception, one clause that every council member had reluctantly agreed to. Unless family is threatened. Jake's dragon form wrapped around the Wanderer's core systems. The ship began to move through jump space at speeds that should have been impossible. He was breaking every speed limit, every safety regulation. He didn't care. His consciousness reached out through the quantum communication network. He sent one message to the Galactic Council headquarters. "This is Dragon Prime. Protocol 7 is active. Anyone who gets in my way will be considered an enemy. Protocol 7, the galaxy's worst nightmare." It meant a dragon was awake, angry, and hunting. At the Council's main station, alarms started blaring. Technicians ran to their stations. Security officers checked their weapons. Politicians began making emergency calls. The last time Protocol 7 had been declared was 14 years ago. A group of pirates had attacked a human colony ship. Jake Morrison had responded. When he was done, the pirates' base station had been turned into dust. The station had stood for 300 years. Jake destroyed it in 17 minutes, now he was doing it again. The Council's emergency team worked fast. They tried to figure out where Jake was going and why. They cleared all civilian ships from the surrounding sectors. When a dragon moved with purpose, nothing was allowed to slow them down, and Jake Morrison was moving very, very fast. Inside the Wanderer, Jake's dragon consciousness calculated trajectories and burn rates. He would reach the Academy in 16 minutes, maybe less if he pushed the engines harder. His daughter was scared. Someone had hurt her. Nothing else mattered. Jake thought about Katie as his ship tore through jump space. He remembered teaching her to walk, to read, to defend herself. He remembered her first day at the academy, how nervous she had been. He had promised her that if she ever needed him, he would come. He was keeping that promise now. The Wanderer's sensors picked up the academy station ahead. Jake began the exit sequence from jump space. His dragon form pulsed with barely controlled rage. He had spent years being diplomatic, years being careful, years pretending to be just another human trying to fit in with the galaxy's established order. Those years were over. As the ship dropped out of jump space, Jake released his full form. The Wanderer was too small to contain him now. He emerged into normal space as a dragon the size of a small moon. His scales reflected the light of nearby stars. His wings seemed to bend space itself as they moved. Every sensor in the academy screamed warnings. Every defense system activated. Every student and teacher stopped what they were doing and stared at the impossible sight outside their windows. Jake circled the station once, his massive eyes scanning for his daughter. His consciousness touched the academy's communication systems. He overrode every security protocol with ease. When he spoke, his voice came through every speaker, every device, every communication channel in the entire station. This is Dragon Prime, also known as Captain Jake Morrison. I have come for my daughter. Everyone except Katie Morrison will leave the corridor where she is standing. You have 60 seconds. Anyone who remains will be treated as a threat. Inside the station, Chancellor Vorn began evacuating students. His energy form flickered with panic as he ushered aliens away from the corridor. Some students ran. Others were frozen with fear. But Zrexthor just knelt on the floor staring at the darkened windows. His mind couldn't process what was happening. Humans weren't supposed to have this kind of power. They were weak. They were newcomers. They were supposed to be easy to intimidate. Katie pulled herself to her feet. Her shoulder still hurt, but the pain didn't matter now. She looked at Zrexthor and saw the fear in his eyes. My father tried to keep it secret, Katie said. Her voice was stronger now. Our family is one of 7 dragon bloodlines on Earth. We were supposed to stay hidden. We were supposed to let humanity join the galaxy peacefully without anyone knowing what we really are. You're lying, Zrexthor whispered, but his voice shook. 30 seconds, Jake's voice echoed through the station. Chancellor Vorn grabbed Katie's arm gently. Please, you need to come with me. We need to get you to safety and contain this situation. Chancellor, Katie said, pulling away from him. My father isn't going to destroy your station. But he's also not leaving until justice is done. Justice? For one student's injuries? Do you understand what a dragon attack could mean? The last confirmed dragon destroyed an entire planetary defense system. Then maybe you should have protected me when you had the chance, Katie said. She limped toward a reinforced junction point that her father had specified. It was designed to withstand weapons fire. Once she was inside, she pressed her beacon. I'm safe, Dad. What happened next would be talked about across the galaxy for generations to come. The Academy's outer hull began to ripple. Not from damage, but from pure pressure. Jake wasn't attacking the station. He was simply pressing his will against it, showing everyone how fragile their safety really was. Craxamite Prince Zrexthor, Jake's voice filled every space in the station. You hurt my daughter. You made her scared. You thought your species' strength gave you the right to harm someone weaker than you. Zrexthor tried to run, but every door in his corridor sealed shut. He was trapped. Let me teach you something about dragons. Jake's voice came through every speaker in the station. His massive form circled outside, scales glowing with an inner light. We don't care about your military strength. We don't care about your empire. We don't care about diplomatic problems. We care about family, and you hurt mine. The section of corridor where Zrexthor stood suddenly changed. The gravity increased to 10 times normal strength. The Craxamite prince collapsed under his own weight. All 4 of his arms couldn't support him anymore. His armor-like skin began to crack under the pressure. How does it feel, Prince? Jake asked. To be helpless? To be at the mercy of something stronger than you? Chancellor Vorn's voice came through the communication system. Dragon Prime, please. We can solve this through proper channels. The Council will hear this case. I promise you justice. The Council, Jake's laugh was cold and without humor. The Council has had 14 years to prepare for this. 14 years to create systems that protect all students equally. Instead, you let politics decide justice. You told my daughter her attacker would just get a warning. The Emperor of the Craxamites will not accept this treatment of his son. Then let him come, Jake said. The temperature around the academy began to drop. Ice crystals formed on the outer hull. Let him bring his fleets. Let him bring his warriors. Let him bring his entire empire. I ended the Vrillian War by myself. I can end the Craxamite Empire just as easily. Inside the sanctuary where students had gathered, young aliens who had never known fear were feeling it for the first time. They watched screens showing the dragon outside. They saw power that their minds could barely understand. Some began to cry. Others prayed to their gods. The gravity around Zrexthor increased again. His exoskeleton made cracking sounds. He had never felt pain like this before. In his whole life, he had always been the strong one. The one with power. Now he was nothing. Please, Zrexthor gasped. Each word was agony. I'm sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know she was a dragon's daughter. You're sorry you got caught, Jake corrected. You're sorry there are consequences. But you're not sorry for what you did. You're not sorry you hurt a child who couldn't fight back. Katie's voice came through the communication system from her secured location. Dad, that's enough. He's learned his lesson, has he? Jake asked. But the gravity field decreased a little. Not much, just enough so Zrexthor could breathe properly. He has, Katie said firmly. And everyone here has learned something more important. They've learned that humans aren't weak. They've learned that we protect our own. They've learned that there are consequences for hurting us. Chancellor Vorn tried again. Dragon Prime, on behalf of the Celestial Academy, I offer formal apologies. Zrexthor will be expelled immediately. He'll face charges through proper Galactic Council procedures. We will create new protection rules to make sure this never happens again. Not good enough, Jake said. I want real reforms. I want humans and all other species you consider weak given equal protection. I want strength-based hierarchies banned. I want this academy to actually teach students instead of just reinforcing which species have the most power. That will require council approval. It could take months. Then I suggest you work fast. The ice around the station grew thicker, because I'm not leaving until I see real action. And the longer I stay, the more expensive this becomes for you. Frozen fuel lines cost a lot to repair. Frozen life support systems cost even more. The Academy's director sent emergency messages to every council member. Ambassadors began working at speeds they had never achieved before. Legal experts were pulled from their beds to draft new policies. Politicians who normally spent weeks arguing over single words now had to make decisions in minutes, because no one wanted a dragon sitting outside their station. Over the next 6 hours, Jake maintained his dragon form in orbit around the Academy. His presence was a constant reminder of what would happen if they failed to act. Inside the station, the greatest minds in galactic law worked together to create something that should have existed from the beginning: equal protection for all species. The Craxamite Emperor himself sent a formal message. He apologized for his son's actions. He announced that Zrexthor was no longer a prince. The boy would face full prosecution under the new laws being created. The Emperor's message made it clear that he understood the situation. Even his empire's power meant nothing against a dragon's rage. Other species sent similar messages. Promises of reform, pledges to change old attitudes. Everyone suddenly remembered that strength-based hierarchies only worked until you met something stronger. Finally, as the new policies were completed and uploaded into the Academy's systems, Jake's form began to shimmer. The massive dragon slowly contracted, pulling back into the shape of a man. He returned to the Wanderer and docked at the Academy's port. When Jake Morrison stepped onto the station, he looked completely normal. He was just a man in casual clothes, tired, worried. He moved through the corridors quickly until he reached the medical bay where Katie was waiting. She ran to him despite her injured shoulder. He caught her carefully and held her close. I'm sorry I wasn't here sooner, Jake said softly. You came fast enough, Katie replied. Tears ran down her face now that she was safe. I knew you would come. I always knew. Always, Jake promised. Did I go too far? Katie laughed through her tears. Maybe a little bit. But it worked. Things are going to change now. Jake looked at his daughter's bruised face and torn uniform. He saw the blood on her lip and the way she held her shoulder. Rage flickered in his eyes again, but he pushed it down. The immediate threat was over. Now came the harder part, building something better. Chancellor Vorn approached them carefully. His energy form was dim with exhaustion and stress. Captain Morrison, Katie, I want to personally apologize for how this situation was handled. You were failed by this institution. Yes, we were, Jake said. His voice was calm again, but the Chancellor could still hear the warning in it. Make sure it doesn't happen again. The new policies are being implemented as we speak. Every mixed species institution in council space will adopt them within the week. We're also creating an oversight committee to ensure equal treatment regardless of species strength or political influence. Good, Jake said. And Zrexthor? He'll face trial. Real trial. Not just diplomatic theater. The new laws apply to him fully. Jake nodded. I'll be watching. All of us will be watching. All of you? Chancellor Vorn asked carefully. There are 7 dragon bloodlines on Earth, Jake said. I'm not the only one. We've been hidden for generations, but that's over now. If this situation taught the galaxy anything, it should be that humans are more than we appear to be. The Chancellor left them alone. Jake sat down next to Katie and they stayed quiet for a while. There was so much to process, so much that had changed in just a few hours. Are you going to be okay here? Jake asked finally. I can transfer you to a different school. One closer to human space. No, Katie said firmly. I'm staying. Things are going to be different now. Better. I want to be part of that change. Jake smiled. His daughter had his courage. Okay, but I'm setting up a permanent communication link. If anything happens, anything at all, you call me immediately. I will, Katie promised. Over the next few days, news of the Morrison incident spread across the galaxy. Every news network covered it. Some called Jake a hero, others called him a threat. Politicians debated what it meant for human-alien relations. Military strategists tried to calculate how to defend against dragon attacks. But the real change happened quietly. In schools across the galaxy, students who had been bullied for being weak suddenly found teachers paying attention. Species that had always been at the bottom of social hierarchies saw new protections being enforced. The strong began to think twice before using their power to hurt others. 3 other dragon families revealed themselves in the weeks following the incident. They added their voices to calls for reform. They made it clear that humanity would no longer tolerate strength-based oppression. The galaxy was learning a new lesson. Humans might look weak, but they were anything but. They had hidden power. They had dragons. And most importantly, they would protect their own no matter what the cost. 2 weeks after the incident, Katie Morrison walked through the academy corridors with her head held high. Her shoulder had healed completely thanks to advanced alien medical technology. The bruises on her face were gone, but the memory of what happened remained fresh in everyone's mind. Students moved differently around her now. Some with respect, others with fear, a few with genuine curiosity. The small human girl who had once been invisible was now the most talked about student in the entire academy. Katie didn't enjoy the attention. She just wanted to study and make friends, but she understood that things had changed. Her father's actions had sent a message that the entire galaxy heard loud and clear. The academy itself looked the same, but everything felt different. New security protocols were in place. Teachers had been retrained on equal treatment policies. The social hierarchy that had seemed so permanent was breaking apart. Katie entered her quantum mechanics class and took her usual seat. The Vraxian student who used to ignore her now nodded in greeting. The Theraxian in the next row moved his belongings so she had more space. Small gestures, but they mattered. The professor, a being made of crystalline structures, began the lesson. Halfway through, he called on Katie to answer a complex equation. She solved it correctly. The professor praised her work. It was normal. Wonderfully, beautifully normal. After class, 3 students approached Katie. She tensed, old instincts preparing for conflict. But their body language was friendly. Katie Morrison, the first one said. She was a Vraxian female with tentacles that changed color when she was nervous. Right now they were showing friendly blue patterns. My name is Lyra. I was wondering if you'd like to study together sometime. I'm having trouble with quantum calculations. Katie blinked in surprise. You want to study with me? You're one of the top students in class, Lyra said simply. And I need help. If you're willing. The second student stepped forward. He was a Theraxian male with skin that glowed softly. I'm Shen. I'm in the art program, but I heard you're good at math. I need help calculating light refraction angles for my next project. The third student was the biggest surprise. She was a Kraxamite female, though much smaller and younger than Zrexthor had been. Her name was Cress, and she looked embarrassed. I want to apologize, Cress said quietly. For my species. For what Zrexthor did. Not all Kraxamites believe in using strength to hurt others. Some of us want to be better. Katie felt something tight in her chest loosen. These students weren't approaching her because they were scared of her father. They were approaching her because they wanted to know her as a person. I'd like that, Katie said, smiling. All of it. Let's study together. They exchanged contact information and made plans to meet in the library the next day. As they walked away chatting, Katie felt something she hadn't felt since arriving at the academy. Hope that evening, Katie called her father. His face appeared on her communication screen, and she could see he was in the captain's quarters of the Wanderer. Hey, sweetheart, Jake said. How was your day? Good, Katie replied. Really good, actually. I made some friends. Real friends, not people who are just scared of you. Jake smiled. That's great. I'm proud of you for staying. The academy asked if you'd come speak to the students, Katie said, about human culture and dragon philosophy. Would you do it? Jake was quiet for a moment. Are you sure that's a good idea? I'm not exactly popular right now. You're exactly what they need to hear from, Katie insisted. Please, Dad, help them understand. Okay, Jake agreed. For you, I'll do it. 3 days later, Jake Morrison returned to Celestial Academy. This time he arrived normally, in his ship, in his human form. No dramatic entrances, no displays of power, just a father coming to speak at his daughter's school. The lecture hall was packed beyond its normal capacity. Students from every species sat in absolute silence as Jake took the stage. Some looked curious, others looked nervous. All of them were paying attention. Thank you for having me, Jake began. His voice was calm and friendly, nothing like the terrifying power they had heard 2 weeks ago. I know I'm not the most welcome guest here right now. I scared a lot of you. I disrupted this academy. I threatened people. I'm not proud of the fear I caused. He paused, looking around the room. But I'm not sorry I came. Because my daughter needed me, and this institution failed to protect her based on species politics. A young Vraxian student raised a tentacle. Dragon Prime, do you think your show of force was the right way to handle things? Couldn't you have used diplomatic channels? It was a good question, and Jake respected it. Honestly? Maybe, probably, but here's the truth. When I heard my daughter's scared voice, I wasn't thinking like a diplomat or a captain. I was thinking like a father. And I used every tool I had to protect my child. But the consequences, a Kraxamite female called out. Katie recognized her as Cress. Your actions brought shame to my entire species. No, Jake said firmly but kindly. Zrexthor's actions brought shame to your species. I just made sure those actions had consequences. There's a big difference. Katie, sitting in the front row, raised her hand. Jake nodded to her with a smile. For anyone who's scared of humans now? Katie said, standing to face her fellow students. For anyone who's scared of dragons. Let me tell you something important. My dad isn't a monster. He's the person who taught me to read, who makes terrible breakfast every Sunday, who cries during sad movies even though he pretends he doesn't. She paused, her voice getting stronger. Dragons aren't evil. They're not violent by nature. They're protective. There's a difference between having the ability to hurt someone and choosing to use it. My dad could have destroyed the station in seconds. Instead, he used his power to create change. An older professor stood up. His species was one Jake didn't recognize. Dragon Prime, you've changed galactic politics by revealing your existence. Some say you've made humanity a target. How do you respond to that? We were always a target, Jake said simply. New species always are. Weak species always are. The only difference now is that everyone knows the truth. Humans aren't weak. We're protective. We remember. We form bonds, and we don't abandon our own. He looked around the lecture hall, meeting eyes with students from a dozen different worlds. I hope this whole situation teaches every species here something important. It's not about being the strongest or having the best technology. It's about how you treat people who can't defend themselves. That's the real measure of civilization. A Thoraxian student spoke up. But dragons are the strongest. Doesn't that make you the same as the species who use strength to dominate? Good question, Jake said. Having power doesn't make you a bully. Using power to hurt those weaker than you makes you a bully. Dragons have the capacity for incredible violence, but capacity isn't the same as choice. We choose to use our strength to protect, not dominate. The questions continued for over an hour. Jake answered each one honestly. He didn't sugarcoat things or make excuses. He explained dragon philosophy, human culture, and the responsibility that came with power. By the end, many students were nodding. Some even smiled. Jake hadn't changed everyone's mind, but he had given them something to think about. After the lecture, a group of students approached Jake. They were the same ones who had become Katie's friends. "Thank you for coming, Dragon Prime," Lyra said. "You gave us a different perspective." "Just call me Jake," he replied. "And thank you for being Katie's friends. Real friends, not just people scared of her father." Cress stepped forward nervously. "Sir, I want you to know that I'm working to change attitudes in my culture. Srexthor's actions don't represent all Craxamites." Jake studied her for a moment, then nodded. "I believe you. Change starts with individuals willing to be different. Keep fighting for what's right." As the students left, Chancellor Vorn approached. "That went better than I expected. Some students are already talking about forming equal rights clubs and cross-species study groups." "Good," Jake said. "That's the kind of change that lasts." "The Council wants to meet with you," the Chancellor added, "to discuss the Dragon Revelation and what it means for humanity's position in galactic politics." "I'll attend their meeting," Jake agreed. "But I want Katie to come with me. She's part of this story. She deserves to have a voice in what happens next." That night, Jake and Katie had dinner together in the Academy's dining hall. Students stared, but neither of them cared. They talked about classes, about friends, about the future. "Things are really changing," Katie said. "I can feel it. Students are talking to each other who never spoke before. Teachers are enforcing the new rules fairly. It's not perfect, but it's better." "Change takes time," Jake said. "But you started something important here. You showed courage when it mattered." "I'm proud of you," Katie smiled. "I learned from the best." 3 months after the incident that changed the galaxy, Katie Morrison walked through the Academy halls with genuine confidence. She no longer walked alone. Lyra the Varaxian, Shen the Thoraxian, and Crest the Craxamite walked beside her. They had become real friends, studying together and supporting each other through difficult classes. The Academy had transformed. The old social hierarchy based on species strength had crumbled. In its place, something new was growing. Students formed study groups across species lines. The cafeteria that used to be divided by race now mixed freely. Teachers enforced equal treatment without fear of diplomatic consequences. It wasn't perfect. Some students still held old prejudices. Some species still looked down on others. But the change was real and growing stronger every day. Katie sat in the same corridor where Srexthor had attacked her 3 months ago. Now she studied there with her friends, turning the place of her fear into a place of learning and laughter. Her communicator beeped. A message from her father. "How's school, sweetheart?" Katie smiled and typed back, "Better. So much better. Thank you for coming when I needed you." The reply came immediately. "Always. That's what family does." Katie looked at her friends gathered around her, at the diverse group of students helping each other learn. She thought about how scared she had been that day, how alone she had felt, how hopeless the situation had seemed, and she realized something important. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is ask for help. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is admit you're scared. Her father had taught her that protecting people you care about is more important than any rule or regulation. The galaxy was learning these lessons, too, slowly, imperfectly, but genuinely. News networks still talked about the Morrison incident. Politicians debated what it meant. Military strategists worried about dragon power. But the real change was happening in places like the Academy, in classrooms where students learned to see past species differences, in hallways where the weak no longer feared the strong. The Galactic Council had held their meeting with Jake Morrison 2 weeks earlier. Katie had attended as he requested. She sat beside her father as council members from dozens of species questioned them about dragons, about humanity, about what this revelation meant for the balance of power. Jake had been calm and clear. Dragons have existed on Earth for thousands of years. We are part of humanity, not separate from it. We kept ourselves secret because we wanted humanity to integrate peacefully. But that secret came with a cost. It let some species believe humans were easy targets. One council member, a massive being made of living stone, had asked the question everyone was thinking: how many dragons exist? 7 bloodlines on Earth, Jake had answered. About 300 individuals total who carry active dragon genetics. Most will never transform. Some don't even know what they are. But all of us share one trait. We protect our families. Another council member asked, what stops dragons from taking over? You have power beyond most military forces. Katie had spoken up then. Because that's not what we want. My father didn't come to the academy to conquer or control. He came because his daughter was scared. Dragons don't want to rule. We want to live in peace and protect the people we love. The council had debated for hours. In the end, they accepted humanity's new position in galactic politics. Earth remained a council member, but now everyone understood that humans were not to be underestimated or bullied. Back in the present, Katie's study session was interrupted by Chancellor Vorn's arrival. His energy form pulsed with excitement. Katie, I have news. The council has approved a new position. A student representative who will report directly to council leadership about equal treatment issues. They want you to be the first one to hold this position. Katie blinked in surprise. Me? Why me? Because you showed courage when it mattered. Because you stood up for yourself even when the system failed you. Because you understand what it's like to be considered weak and powerless. Katie looked at her friends. Lyra's tentacles showed encouraging green patterns. Shen's glow brightened with approval. Even Cress clicked her mandibles, and what Katie had learned was a Craxamite smile. I'll do it, Katie said. But only if I can work with a team. Change doesn't happen because of one person. It happens when people work together. Chancellor Vorn's energy form brightened. I was hoping you'd say that. Pick your team. The council will approve whoever you choose. Katie didn't hesitate. Lyra, Shen, and Cress. We've learned to work together across species differences. We can help others do the same. Her 3 friends agreed immediately. They spent the rest of the afternoon planning how they would use their new positions to help students across the galaxy. Meanwhile, Jake Morrison was back in space, carrying out diplomatic missions. But everything was different now. Other captains and ambassadors treated him with a new kind of respect. Not fear exactly, but awareness. An understanding that humanity had hidden depths. Jake received messages daily. Some from grateful families whose children had been protected by the new equal treatment laws. Some from species leaders promising to enforce the reforms. A few were threats from those who resented the changes. He ignored the threats. The grateful messages, though, he saved and read when he felt tired. 3 other dragon families had revealed themselves in the months following the incident. They formed a loose council, not to rule or control, but to ensure no dragon acted carelessly. They knew their power came with responsibility. One evening, Jake received a call from an unexpected source. The Craxamite Emperor himself appeared on the screen. Captain Morrison, the Emperor said. His voice was formal but respectful. I wanted to inform you personally. My son's Rex Thor has been sentenced. He will spend 10 years working with the Galactic Council's Aid Corps, helping species his culture once dominated. He will learn empathy through action. Jake nodded. That seems fair. I hope he learns from it. So do I, the Emperor replied. I also wanted to apologize again. Not as an emperor, but as a father. I failed to teach my son properly. His actions reflected poorly on everything I tried to build. Children make their own choices, Jake said. The question is whether they learn from their mistakes. Indeed. The Emperor paused. Your daughter spoke well at the council meeting. She has wisdom beyond her years. She gets that from her mother, Jake said with a smile. The Emperor clicked his mandibles in amusement. Give her my regards. And Dragon Prime, thank you. My species needed this lesson. We had grown too arrogant in our strength. After the call ended, Jake sat quietly in his ship. He thought about everything that had changed because his daughter called him scared. He thought about the reforms spreading across the galaxy. He thought about the future his actions had helped create. He also thought about his wife, Lisa, waiting for him back on Earth. She was a dragon, too, from a different bloodline. She had supported his decision to reveal himself, even knowing it would change their lives forever. Jake sent her a message. Coming home soon. I love you. Her reply made him smile. We're proud of you. Both of us, Katie called earlier. She's doing amazing things at the academy. On Earth, in the Morrison family home, Lisa prepared dinner and thought about her daughter among the stars. She had worried when Katie first went to the academy. worried about bullies, worried about discrimination, worried about all the things parents worry about. She had never imagined it would lead to this. To galactic reform, to revealed secrets, to a new era of equality, but she wasn't surprised. Morrisons protected their own. It was what they had always done, what they would always do. Back at the academy, Katie stood in front of a new group of students. They were the Equal Treatment Committee she had formed with her friends. Students from 20 different species gathered to discuss how to make their school even better. Change is happening, Katie told them, but we can't get comfortable. We need to keep pushing for fairness, keep speaking up when we see injustice, keep working together across species lines. A small alien student in the back raised a tentacle nervously. But what if we speak up and nothing changes? What if we're too weak to make a difference? Katie smiled. 3 months ago, I was on the floor of a corridor, hurt and scared. I felt weak. I felt powerless. But I wasn't alone. I had family who would come for me. And now I have friends who stand with me. None of us are weak when we stand together. The students nodded. Some made sounds of agreement in their own languages. The committee meeting continued with energy and purpose. As the weeks passed, the Morrison incident became less about one dramatic day and more about lasting change. Schools across the galaxy adopted the Academy's new policies. Species that had always dominated began to check their privilege. Those who had been oppressed found their voices. Katie continued her studies while working with the Equal Treatment Committee. She maintained top grades in quantum mechanics. She helped her friends with difficult assignments. She reported issues to the council when needed. She also stayed in regular contact with her father. Their bond had always been strong, but the incident had deepened it. They understood each other in ways they hadn't before. One night, Katie stood at an observation window looking out at the stars. Lyra found her there, thinking about home? The Vraxian asked. Thinking about everything, Katie replied. About how one scary moment changed so much. About how my father's love created reforms across the